To Ryanair now, and is putting plans for future share buybacks on hold due to uncertainty surrounding Brexit. That comes as the airline reported its first decline in first half profit for 5 years amid rising fuel prices, strikes by the European air traffic controllers and disruptions from the unions, which they've recognised. The CEO, it is Michael O'Leary. He joins Nara and myself this morning. Michael, warm welcome to the show. Obviously, the headline isn't great, but you are sticking to this guidance that you've given to the market. What I want to get a sense from you is, has the worst passed in terms of the financial guidance? You're in at 1.1 to 1.2 billion. Is that a conservative number, or is that your worst case scenario for this year?
Morning, Manus. I think it's pretty conservative, but, we can't rule out that oil may go higher again. There's some analysts believe oil will hit $100 a barrel, and we have said, our guidance is based on oil being about $85 a barrel out to the end of March. We're reasonably well hedged, but, we're 90% hedged out for the next 12 months at $68 a barrel, but we have 10% unhedged. So if oil prices go higher this winter, and it's a possibility, if they hit $100 a barrel, I think we'd have to relook at the guidance again, but we'd also start taking out more capacity. We might close one or two more bases or ground some additional winter capacity. At the moment, it looks unlikely, but we shouldn't rule it out. I mean, this is one of these great periods in our industry where the doo-doo has hit the fan, oil has spiraled upwards, and it will be a flight to who's got the lowest cost this winter. That's Ryanair. And already we're seeing bankruptcies. Primera, Air Azul, Small Planet, some of these smaller guys disappearing. And I frankly hope more of them disappear this winter because they deserve to disappear.
Michael, rising oil prices, we understand that's a headwind. But of course, since you've recognised the unions, the strikes, a big part of the story as well. Can you give investors any light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to the impact on your bottom line from strikes?
We've had very few strikes. I'm amazed this narrative that runs around out there. The strikes.
So no impact on the third quarter?
We have had 8 days of strikes, which were participated in by less than 10% of our people and affected less than 10% of our flights. There's very little impact in our half-year numbers of pilot and cabin crew strikes because we've had so few of them. There has been a huge impact, though, of ATC strikes. We had 11 weekends through May and June of French air traffic controllers. And it's the EU 261 costs that have jumped significantly as we re-accommodate passengers and take care of their right to care needs. So ATC strikes are a real challenge for the industry. But the process of unionisation has gone reasonably well. We have now done agreements in the UK, in Ireland, in Italy. We signed with the Portuguese pilots last week, and we hope to have the Spanish pilots done in the next number of weeks. Can I rule out further strikes? No, because unlike a lot of other airlines, we will take some strikes if we have to, where we think people are being unreasonable. This is a well-run, well-managed airline, but we have the lowest costs. We have high pilot pay, high cabin crew pay, and if somebody wants to be unreasonable or some competitor airline employees want to interfere in the process, frankly, let them interfere in the process and we'll manage our way around it.
Obviously, Michael, look, we hear what you said about Spain, the unions, how they're threatening another strike by the end of the year. Belgium put you, according to our headline, on probation. The consequence of that, not great PR in terms of what might happen in the future, is knocking the fares that you're able to offer. Are you going to have to cut fares further, Michael, to bolster the numbers against those kind of headlines?
I hope so, Mandy. I think one of the great things about bad PR is it sells far more seats than good PR. Today, with our half-year results, we're releasing 1 million seats on sale in November, December, January and February at just $9.99, and there will be a surge of bookings will come through the system. If we had lots of PR because we were being nice to people, no one would notice. The great joy of Ryanair is that when there's negative PR, we get disproportionate...
You got great PR out of having a kitten in your hand, out of being really nice to the... Like, come on, Michael. You have great PR out of, being nice to the customers. What you've got now, on a serious note, you have got... There is this issue. Why would I book the ticket with you if I run the risk that in Spain or in the other European centres that your pilots or your crew might go on strike? Is it eating into margins at all?
No, because you run no risk. I mean, we've had 8 days of strikes this year. I think Air France has had about 20, Lufthansa's had about 20. And on all of those days, we accomplished more than 90% of the flight schedule. In Spain, for example, on a day when there's strikes, we have about 70% of our flights are covered by minimum service. So I don't think that's the issue. Look, the airline industry has had a 4 or a 5 year bull run. We've been warning about it for about 18 months. Now, in 12 months, oil has doubled to $85 a barrel. You're starting to see a shakeout. I think this is going to be a very, very difficult winter, characterized by much lower airfares, which is good for Ryanair, higher oil prices for our competitors. I mean, you take Norwegian, they're 85% unhedged. We're 90% hedged for the next 12 months. So while we're paying for oil at $68 a barrel, they're paying $85 a barrel, and they don't have the cash to survive at $85 a barrel.
Analysts polled by Bloomberg, Michael, don't expect profit to increase for the next couple of years. The shares are also down almost 40% from a peak in 2017. What can you tell investors about succession planning next year? I know we're talking about the last numbers, but it is something that investors are.
She has an infamy.
No, we love you.
No, the problem is I'm too nice to you.
Firstly, never believe the analysts. They're generally always wrong. Yes, I think profits will be down this year. I suspect the next year, out to March 20, I think you'll see a recovery, because remember, the fundamentals in this industry is that fares tend to lag behind oil, typically 12 months. Oil has been rising for the last 12 months. I think you'll begin to see fares rise certainly into the summer of 2019 as BA, Lufthansa, Air France will restore fuel surcharges, and you'll see some upward pricing on pricing. In terms of succession, the board want me to stay on for another couple of years. I've said they want me.
Will you?
Well, I said I won't do 5, but I'm happy to do 2 or 3. We have a very good management team in Ryanair, delivering, what is the lowest cost airline, the lowest fare airline in Europe. So, but we have a succession plan both internally and to replace me if woe betide anything unfortunate happens to me. We have a terrific management team. Succession is not an issue at the moment. I think the big challenge for us at the moment is taking the first 5 deliveries of the new MAX aircraft. We take the first 5 in March next year. And the key for these aircraft is they give us 4% more seats, 16% lower fuel consumption per flight than our existing fleet. And we're about to take 210 of these over the next 5 years. So we are sailing into a period of resolute unit cost reduction. And if oil prices rise this winter and there's a shakeout in the sector, great.
Michael, it sounds as if we're all going to be tied together for another couple of years. I hope my contract lasts.
Not necessarily with you, but nevertheless. Nearer now, I'd like to be tied to for the next couple of years.
OK, that's a whole other story, Mr. O'Leary, and we won't go there. What I want to know from you is, look, there was a bit of a ruckus in regards to the chairman. Do you have full institutional support for you, Michael, to continue on for another couple of years? Do you feel that you've got the institutional shareholder support to make you feel very comfortable in the seat?
I mean, I think so, but I've always got to be careful. Institutions want to see delivery. We've explained the story well to them at the last AGM. I think my vote in favour of me, I think, was about 98.5%, which is always a bit worrying when it gets that high. David Bonderman, who's been our chairman for 22 years, got a 70-30% vote in favour, a 2-1 majority. There has been an issue over David. He's been on the board for 22 years. He is one of the great aviation leaders across the world. I'd like to hang on to him for another couple of years, but I think he himself has said he'll do maybe another year or 2, and we have said that we'll come back to shareholders prior to next year's AGM with a succession plan both for the board and at least more details on a succession plan for me sometime in the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, the support is waning for the chairman, but it is still there, as you point out. Let's talk about Brexit as well, Michael. The UK warning that flights may be grounded. The issue here is those reciprocal approvals in the case of a no-deal Brexit. If you get that worst-case scenario, I mean, just outline for us what that's going to mean for Ryanair.
I mean, look, a worst-case scenario is quite clear. Flights will be grounded, on the 1st of April next year. But that is so politically undeliverable. The government will fall if the flights are grounded. So I think if there's any risk to that, and we will know probably around Christmas, I think it lasts for a couple of days, a week or 2 at max. And then the UK will simply stumble into 21 months of transition or a longer transition period, because that's the only deal that will be on the table at that point in time. So there's a clear risk, to disruption to flights. The risk is unlikely. But you know what and I think what everybody is conscious of here is the political situation in the UK is so fraught. You have a minority government. Whether Mrs May stays or whether there's a general election could run across all of that. So I suspect the most likely outcome is 21 months of transition. I suspect it is unlikely that there will be a no-deal hard Brexit, but if there is a no-deal hard Brexit, the legislation is absolutely clear the flights will be grounded. Now, the UK has said they will let the European airlines land here, which covers Ryanair because we're an EU airline. But I think the reciprocal, there may not be reciprocity.
Yeah.
I don't think the Europeans will say to the UK airlines, which is essentially EasyJet and BA, no, you can't land here. But again, only for a period of days or weeks. Manny, sorry.
Michael, let's just close off this conversation on Brexit, and thanks for your time this morning, by the way. You've often said a deftness is needed in terms of allocating resources to the UK in this whole hubris of Brexit. Are you trimming back any further investment into the UK because you just want to be hedged?
I mean, honestly, we have been very cautious with our capacity allocation into the UK for the last 2 years. Now, we've got a great deal at London Southend, so we're opening up a 3-aircraft base in London Southend. But really, most of our capacity has, for the last 2 or 3 years, the growth has been into Germany, Central Europe, Spain, Italy. So we have come to dominate the European market. As an EU-registered airline, we're kind of insulated from the damages of Brexit, apart from the risk to flight rights between the UK and Europe. And I suspect that gets dealt with pretty quickly, even in the event of a hard Brexit.
Michael O'Leary, CEO of Ryanair,
Yeah.
real pleasure
Thank you very
to have
much.
you with us on set here. Thank you so much.